Hi friend, how are you? I'm Pat Sloan and this is Magical May, our quilty videos, challenges every single day. And today is Wednesday the 13th and we are on Beautify. Did I spell that right? It doesn't look right, does it? Sorry if I spelled it wrong. Okay, what does it mean to beautify? What I'd like you to do, this is your challenge. First part here, let's do the challenge. So your challenge is to show me how you decorate with your quilts. So if you've got a wall hanging in your home, you've got pillows, you have table toppers, quilts on the bed, those are always good. Maybe as a bed runner, whatever it is. Let's show me a picture. You can go over to my Quilt Along with Pat Sloan Facebook page and share it there. I will go and take a few photos of my still blue living room. It has not changed yet. My goal is to get the blue changed out, but it hasn't happened yet. When it does, you'll be the first to know. So I'll show you a picture of that. But first I want to, since I'm not jumping out here to show you a picture, this is the type of and size of quilt that would be, for me, a decorating piece. Because primarily I started quilting to decorate with them. That was my goal, is to create quilts to put on the walls, to create table toppers. So this is a 4-block version of the quilt behind me, which is called Glow, done with my Bonnie Lane. So here is one that, you know, the size of it I would use as a table topper or a wall hanging. I would just hang it on the wall. I probably have 20, 25, 30 quilts hanging in my home on the wall. And then several of the surfaces have runners and toppers and little projects and pillows. So that's what I like to do. So that's how I decorate. So there's just 4 blocks of the Glow pattern, which is super fun to make. It still needs binding. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. It didn't get the binding on it. When it does, it's going to charity for a baby. So that is the purpose of this quilt. But since there's always, it kind of got stuck in the pandemic thing, so I decided that it would need to wait for a while. I didn't get it going when I first thought I thought I had lots of time. And it's just like later. It'll get there. I should pull the binding out. I thought, well, I could put the binding on now. Maybe that would be good. Then it's all ready whenever I can send it. So this is our last week for Baby Charming. And that is my friend Melissa Corey's book, which is charming, all these charming baby quilts. And then we did a sampler. So it's a pretty big sampler, and I've showed it to you before. It's up on my website. So right below the video here, where you can also subscribe. So be sure you subscribe, be sure you like the video while you're down there, and get the link over to my website where you can see the full quilt and the full backing. But I thought I'd show you just the part of the backing here. Here we go. The 1 block is the little rocket ship, and that was done to be 1 block on the backing. And then Judy Post quilted this one for me. And you can see these really nice swirls, and it's got, there you go, it's got a flower in it. That turned out really cute. So the whole quilt is so darling. I love the fabric. There you go, I'll hang it, hold it up. So it's a biggie. It's a nice cuddle, it's a great cuddle size quilt. This will probably go to a family member at some point, unless I keep it. But no, that's probably going to go to one of my family members. So, and it needs binding too. I still have a lot that need binding. Oh. So let's talk about the rainbow quilt. Behind me is my auxiliary design wall at the moment, because I got tired of layering over on the regular design wall, so I decided to just pin these up here because I wanted to start sewing the rainbow quilt as I went along. Plus I have the Andre Tutto, everything will be okay. Andre Tutto Bene, the Italian phrase, everything will be okay. And that's what we did, that rainbow quilt to hang up in your window. But this one is our sew along for every day. So I decided to make a few extra yellows just so I could sprinkle, have a little bit of variety in this last grouping of yellows. So here we go. I have cute little bees, and I paired it with Greg's shirt. The pineapples from Greg's shirt. Yeah, I may end up putting all of that shirt in this quilt because I'm keeping this quilt. And so that material got really soft with all the washings. All right, then I have this nice geometric with that sort of basic that I'm using a lot of, so I have a lot more of that basic. And then this is going to answer another question. Forget who asked. Our friend over at Quilt Along with Pat Sloan group. Who was it? Linda. Linda said, had a question. She says, why don't you use batiks? Well, I do use batiks. I actually had fabric lines of batiks that were mine. I had about 5 of them when I did fabric with Moda. So here is one of my batiks from early on, and it's paired with that basic. Now, I can't collect and use every style of fabric, and that's really what it comes down to. I use batiks off and on. I'll go in a phase and I'll use a lot of batiks, and then I won't. I'll use a lot of something else. Just like I rarely right now use Civil War fabric. That's a style of fabric that I'm just not using right now. I don't use 30s fabric too much, unless it's like just one quilt I'm making with it. So batiks, I just have not been collecting them lately. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm getting things from the manufacturers, and I just haven't had anybody send me any batiks lately. But that could change. Like a month from now, I could see a batik and have a really cool idea for it, and then I might be back into using batiks. Like, I do mix them. So that is not a non-batik here. So I don't have any trouble mixing them. I've done whole quilts like that. And then I've done whole quilts where they're all batiks. So I do use batiks, and I just have not been using them much in the last few years. So that is the skinny on the batiks. So I'm going to answer another question here, and this is something that I'm sure you can go out onto YouTube here and get a super detailed answer to this, but I'm going to give you the sort of short answer to the question that came in. And I forget who asked this. She asked, one of our friends at Quilt Along with Pat Sloan asked me to talk about how to cut the fabric for a border on the length. So I'm going to do just a little brief of how I approach it. And then if you want to know how to cut how to cut borders from the length of fabric, just put it in YouTube search or Google search, and I'm sure you will find a bunch of people who've gone through it step by step. So let's go down here a minute. So I have a piece of, this is the yellow for the binding. Yes, so I thought that's cool. I'm not going to actually cut it. I'm just going to walk through it. So here's how it comes off the bolt. So it is folded. This is my Bonnie Lane. So here is the fold up here. And this is the salvage end. And one is printed and one is not. This is called, let me get out here. Yeah, this part here is called width of fabric. It's the width. This, where it's like goes on and on and on and on to put it on the bolt, is called the length of fabric. So when you're doing I'm going to get this in here a little bit differently. So when you do the length, when you're cutting on the length of fabric, it is a little less stretchy. And that's why a lot of people like it for a border. If you come like this, there's very, very little stretch, and it's based on how the fabric is woven. If you come on the width of fabric, this is up to that fold on the bolt. If you come here, can you see? This has a little bit more stretch, and I'm not pulling it any differently. This has barely any stretch. Then if you do bias, and bias is across here, that has the most stretch. Do you see that? See how much stretch that has? So here's width of fabric, bias, and then length, which is barely any stretch. So a lot of times people want that for a border because there's going to be very little change in the size of it. And so that's why we do length of fabric. When I'm cutting for length of fabric, let me pull it down here so you can see. I'm just going to give you just a little brief of what I would do. Is I would take my ruler and I would cut from the salvage end. And let's say you're doing a 5-inch border. This is a 5.5. I mean, this is a 6.5 inch, 6 inch. I'm sorry. This is Olfa 6-inch ruler. And let's say I was doing a 5-inch finished or a 5.5. So I would cut more than I need, a little bit. So that's about a 1/2 inch away there. I just want wiggle room. And usually when you're buying this much, unless your borders are really, really wide, you're going to have extra doing length of fabric, because this is going to be 2 borders and here's going to be the other 2 borders, and then you have all of this extra to go into your collection. So what I will do is first go, and I'm not going to cut it, but I'll just pretend, is that I would be cutting, you know, just a big chunk off like this, so that I would have some that I'm going to actually measure from. So after this was cut, then I would take the ruler and I would carefully cut one side, and I would just be scooting the roller down, continuing to cut until I got the whole length. And then I would trim the other side to the exact number that I need. So I'm doing this in parts, like in steps. So it takes a little bit longer to do a length of fabric for me because I want to be more careful, but you're also not patching it into something usually. It's kind of the final thing. So like if one side is 1/16 smaller than the other, unless you're entering competition, you're probably not even going to notice. So what I do is I will cut it a little bit wider, and then from that I will cut one side straight, and I just scoot the ruler down, being very careful, and then I will cut and do the final cut on the opposite side. So that gives me that sort of step by step, and I get rid of that extra bulk, so I don't have this whole bulky thing where I'm trying to get the exact number from it. I wanted something a little bit smaller. Okay, and that's it. Oh, I forgot one more thing. This goes in my Let It Go bag, my Let It Go bag. I have 2 of these. It's a Dresden ruler, and I have 2, the exact same company. I actually have another one from another company that's bigger, which I could actually get this size out of that other one, but I'm not giving this one up yet. So I have 2 of these, so I found it. That is going in my Let It Go bag. So I hope you will find a Let It Go item. Send me for your challenge, show me a photo, or tell me down in the bottom here, tell me what kind of quilts you decorate with. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of my community. I love you. Have an amazing day, and I will see you online.